Hey guys, I just wanted to remind everyone that my short film Spider, starring Spooky Madison and written and directed by yours truly, has been accepted to two festivals. This weekend, July 26th through the 28th, you can catch the premiere of Spider at the Motor City Nightmares Horror Convention and Film Festival in Novi, Michigan. Spider is playing Sunday, July 28th at 3:45 p.m. Also, Spider was made an early selection for the Chicago Horror Film Festival, and you can catch my film there the weekend of September 27th through the 29th. I am so excited for my creepy crawly short film. If you guys want to help me with my horror endeavors, the best way you can support me is by signing up for my Patreon. For only $3 a month, you can support the show directly and you get exclusive blogs, movie reviews, extended episodes, and behind the scenes updates from yours truly. Now, it's time to descend into one of the scariest movies of the 2000s.
Death has come to your little town, Sheriff.
Have you ever felt a knife cut through human flesh and scrape the bone beneath?
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Be my victim.
You are all my children now.
Hello, my name is Austin Torres, and welcome to the Would You Die podcast, the show where we talk about our favorite horror monsters and villains. Today is an exciting day because I am joined by Wrex Horton from the rock band Flat Black to talk about, well, his upcoming album and the iconic 2005 horror film, The Descent.
Yeah, what's up? How's it going?
I'm doing great. I'm super excited. How are you doing today?
Good, good. It's a little hot in Vegas. It's about 115 degrees, so I'm staying inside today, but
That sounds insane. I'm a Michigander,
yeah.
so I'm like, we're like 90. That's really hot. 115, we would die.
Yeah, it's like you walk outside and it's like an air fryer or something. You're living in
Oh,
one.
yeah, I would be right there with you, staying inside. Like, nope,
Yeah.
no outdoors for me today.
Nope.
That sounds like actual hell, to be
It,
perfectly
it
honest.
really is. It really is. You can't really walk outside for more than like 3 or 5 minutes. Like the walk into the grocery store is like rough. It's like bad.
Oh,
So,
gee.
yeah.
Oh, geez. As someone who's never really the farthest west I've ever been is Montana.
Yeah. Beautiful
So,
state.
yeah, but like I hear it gets super hot in Nevada and
Yeah.
California, and I'm just like, I don't know. I don't know if I can handle that.
Yeah, people say here they're like, "Oh, it's dry heat. It's not as bad." I'm from Massachusetts, so it's like it gets humid there,
Yeah.
which is like really uncomfortable. But here people are like, "It's dry heat, man. It's not the same." Once you get to 100 degrees, like it doesn't really matter. It's pretty like
Right.
rough. It's pretty rough no matter what. You can't escape it. There's nowhere you can run to, and AC start breaking all over the place. Like I was in a restaurant yesterday, and we were like walked in, we were like, "Huh." I think the AC is broken. And they were like, sorry, the AC is broken. We're all sitting there like miserable, like we're out to
Oh
eat.
my
Yeah.
God. That
Yeah.
sounds
It's
horrible.
not great. It's not great.
I know they need to make money, but if you're in a restaurant, you should be closed if you don't have AC in the summer.
I'm with you, dude. I grew up working in restaurants and I had a couple instances where, there was like AC problems and it's bad for everyone. It's
Yeah,
bad for everyone for
especially
sure.
for like when you're working,
Yeah.
because you can't
Yeah.
leave.
Right. It's rough.
Oh, and then to be like one of the cooks where it's already hot.
That's what I did, dude. I did that
No!
stuff. So yeah. It was really bad.
I'm sure everyone who tuned in to hear us talk about the descent is loving, just like, it's kind of hot outside.
Yeah. The weather talk, man. The weather talk.
But before we dive deep into the descent, I want to make sure we talk about your upcoming album, Dark Side of the Brain,
Yeah.
because it's awesome.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate it.
I'm really excited to talk about it. I got to listen to it the other day, and I'm just like, because I'm at work, you got to multitask, right? And I'm
Yeah.
sitting there, I'm like, oh, I like this, because when it comes to music, I'm very not with it. if that makes
Sure.
sense.
No,
People have
sure.
to tell me to listen to whatever. I'm like, okay, and then I usually like it, but I was like, ooh, I really like this is right. Your album sounds like I don't want to say it sounds like anything. But
No,
like
no, you can say whatever you want.
it was giving me the vibes of like the rock and roll music that my mom showed me when I was growing up.
Yeah.
So like it doesn't sound like Black Sabbath, but I have Black Sabbath vibes, if that makes sense.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think that's part of our goal is to sort of bring back the guitar is sort of like dying in rock music. It's, even the bands that are, rock and metal bands, there's lots of synths and, like we call them trap hi-hats, like that kind of stuff, and all sorts of rap music. It's like sort of pushed its way into rock music, and even I don't know if you like listen to much country or you're familiar with much country, but there's this artist Morgan Wallen who's like I really love him. I think he makes great music, but he has the hi-hat, the trap beat hi-hats now too. It's like we're kind of like getting away from real instruments and more digital every year it seems, and we kind of want to come back to that old feel of these are real instruments. They're
Yeah.
powerful. Where we play real, all of our stuff's real amps, and our drummer is a real fiend on the kit, and it's that you come see us live. It's loud, it's powerful, and yeah, I appreciate you saying that. That's definitely part of our goal was to bring back some of the old.
Yeah, because there's like a rawness to that like 70s and 80s like hard rock, you know,
Yes,
that I think your album really, really just exudes that rawness and that high energy that I think of like Appetite for Destruction, Guns N' Roses,
yes, yes, yes.
are like some of that old school Aerosmith before they went pop.
Yeah, that was like my favorite band as a kid was Aerosmith, and the guys in
That's my
my band.
favorite band now.
Oh, really? Yeah,
Yeah, I
that's
love
awesome. That's
Aerosmith.
awesome. Yeah,
When
they're really good.
when I call them out on their pop stuff, like, I'm still banging my head to Love in an Elevator. I still love
Yeah,
all that stuff, but it's true. I don't mean it as a bad thing, but it's like there was a switch from 70s Aerosmith to when they started making real money.
yeah, for sure. The guitar player in my band, Jason, who's like kind of the sort of like our leader in the band. Like he brought us all together, and this is he started the band and all this stuff. But his favorite bands are like Van Halen and Kiss and stuff like that. So we all have this inherent thing within, and like wait, like Pantera too is like a very,
Yeah.
it's like that's kind of the glue between all of us, because like I come from sort of like death metal and like really heavy stuff, but like I would say Pantera, Van Halen, like those are the bands that we all kind of come together on. And I love that you said that, because we all feel the same like about that stuff,
Mhm.
and we all kind of want to recapture that sound and that magic that was there, right?
Yes. How did you first get into music?
When I was probably like 13 or 14, my sister taught me. My sister was like a really good guitar player. She played in a Blues Brothers cover band when she was in high school. Yeah, and she's
That's
like
awesome.
really, yeah, she's really good now. She's a doctor now, but she still plays in like a folk rock band now. So she taught me the basics of guitar, and I said, look, I really want to play in jazz band in high school, just like you did. Can you teach me? Can you get me to this point where I can try out? And I think I had like 2 months, and she like sat down with me, and she's when I was 14, she's 8 years old, and so she's 22. She's right out of pre-med college, and she's like living with me and my parents for a very short amount of time after college. And she sat down and really like dug into it with me and taught me how to like read music. And I eventually tried out for jazz band, and I got in somehow.
Yes.
Yeah, I was always into metal and stuff like that. And I think when I got my first car, it wasn't my car. I was borrowing my mom's car when I drove to work. I would listen to a band called All That Remains, and I would just try my best to sound like his screaming. and sound like and copy his singing voice, and also Kill Switch Engage was like my favorite band. I tried to, copy that sound, and so I would be driving and I would sing all the way to work and all the way back. So that's where I got like the majority of my practice. And then I found my first group of people. I learned to record, and I learned like multi-instrumental. Like I like learned how to play bass. I got an electronic drum kit, and I learned how to play drums a little bit because I was like, oh, I'm the only person in this town that likes this music. I gotta do it all myself. And I had this really good music teacher, which, this is a great testament to like one teacher can really change your life. And this one teacher, he sat down with me, and I said, I want to learn how to record. I want to learn how to be a better guitar player. And he would sit down with me and spend this time with me. He taught me how to record, and I started writing my own music when I was like 16. All from the ground up. And I wouldn't say it wasn't incredible by any means, but I started getting that experience. And then I found my first band, I want to say like the end of my junior year of high school, beginning of my senior year. So I was like probably 17 or 18, and I found my first band. And yeah, we started playing like locally together. We played like open mics. We played metal when all these people were like playing acoustic songs. It was like pretty awkward, but the guys in my first band they all live in Nashville now, and they like are like studio musicians and play. It's crazy. They're all really,
That's awesome.
They're all real musicians now, too. And then eventually I got linked up with my next band, which was like kind of like a metalcore, kind of like hardcore-ish band called The Worst of Us. And I played with them just about, up until that, like we kind of decided to close that chapter this year. I played with them from like 2017. Yeah, it's probably like 6 years. And then, I made tons of internet videos. I made vocal cover videos, and not to a ton of success. A few of them got a couple 100,000 views, but nothing ever too crazy. And eventually I got discovered by Ronnie Radke, the singer of Falling in Reverse. And he pulled me into his band, and I played bass in his band for 1 year. That came to an end, and I had met Jason, the guitar player in my current band, Flat Black. I met him through a mutual friend that I worked with when I was in Falling in Reverse. She was my tour manager, and she was his tour manager in his other band, Five Finger Death Punch, for like 10 years. So I told her one day, I was like, I kind of want to be like I like playing bass. This band's really fun. I love the music. I'm having so much fun, but like I'm kind of a singer. Like I really want to be a singer. I don't know if this is like if I'm on the right path with this stuff. I love doing it, but I'm not sure. And she's like, actually, like I know a guy who needs a singer. And that's how we eventually got linked up. And, through a lot of things lining up, me losing that gig and him finding out that I lost that gig, he was like, hey, I heard you're not so busy anymore. And then one thing led to the next, and, here we are. But yeah, it really started when my sister just like taught me how to play guitar. So I kind of owe it to her. I'm not going to lie.
I love that story so much. Mostly because I also did guitar in high school jazz band.
Nice.
But that's kind of where I stopped, unfortunately. I still play, like, just for myself. But
yeah, I see your little SG in the back there.
Yeah.
Or it's a Viper, maybe, an ESP Viper.
It's an Epiphone, like a SG? Tony Iommi SG.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, nice.
Like I said earlier, compared you guys to Sabbath, that is the highest compliment, because I love Sabbath.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate it.
But yeah, I had a strange journey with music. I don't think I ever talked about it on this podcast before, because this is like normally a horror movie podcast, and it still is. But I did music for a long time. I wanted to play the trumpet first because I wanted to play the theme from Jurassic Park, like any other 10-year-old would pick the trumpet for. And I couldn't do it, and trumpet was really hard, especially for like my weak 10-year-old lips. Like I couldn't buzz. So I was like, screw the trumpet, I'm never playing that again. And then I decided guitar will be easy because of the game Guitar Hero. Spoiler alert, guitar's not easy.
Yeah.
But I think I was like 13 at this point, and I was old enough to just like, hey, I suck at this, but maybe if I keep going, I won't suck as much. and then I didn't give up on that. And then somehow I started playing trumpet again, and that took me through like I did a lot of marching bands when I was in high school and college. I did like the Michigan State marching band, which is a
Nice.
big 300 piece band, and we would go, play for packed football stadiums all the time. I still kind of kept with music, but after I got out of school, I just put all my attention towards film. And now music is more of like I do it for fun when I have the time, but like I found my passion was film, where I feel like if you're going to be in music, you have to have that passion.
Yeah, it's got to be this or die, It's like,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. And when I didn't feel that way about music, I was like, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, sure, totally. And that's a very wise place to get. A lot of people, they play in local bands for 10 years and they never do anything with it. And it's like, maybe you should do something, maybe you should try something else, And I think that's kind of a sad state to be in. It's kind of when you're not aware of your gifts, and you're clearly more gifted, and your real passion of film, right? And to be honest with yourself and discover that, it's important. I wasted 10 years cooking in restaurants. I was a sous chef. I was the big dog in the kitchen, man.
Mhm.
And I knew I didn't want to do it. And I
Yeah.
kept doing it, and I was like, oh, maybe if I do that, maybe I can figure out a way to do this, and maybe I'll make buku of dollars. And it just never happened, dude. It just never, I was always just like coasting. I got to a point where I was paid pretty good, but
Mhm.
I I don't know, man. And music's tough too, because there's like really not a path. There's really not like a good
Yes.
path. And it's a lot of things. Like I made online videos for 5 or 6 since I was 17, and I got like
Mhm.
discovered when I was 21. So it was like 4 years of throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what would stick. And I got really lucky, and by the grace of Ronnie from Falling in Reverse, like I was really lucky, and he pulled in some
Yeah.
no name. Like that doesn't really happen. So you can't really rely on those things, and music's just not a very reliable place to be at. Whereas film, I'm looking for that all the time. I'm looking for people to film and take photo. Like it's such a demanded field. It's like, dude, there's too many musicians. Like if you don't got the stuff, like it's very clear. There's just a lot of people trying to do it. It's very
Yeah.
oversaturated. It's like SoundCloud rappers, dude. It's become a meme. It's like you're laughing because it's a meme. Like
Right,
it's like a
exactly.
joke now, because it's like something that anyone can do. Anyone can, get a beat software, make some basic beats, and put some stuff up on SoundCloud, and there's just 1,000 friggin' people doing it, dude. There's just 1,000 people doing the same thing as you. Same thing with music. I mean, metal is it's the
Yep.
same way. It's you can it costs about $200 to get the stuff that you need to record an entire album, like on a computer. Like you don't need much. When you're when you don't have the stuff, it's super easy to get delusional and say, oh well, I made when I was 16, dude, I
Mhm.
made a whole record by myself, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm the man. I'm so cool for this, dude. And the reality is it's I've gone back and listened to that stuff, and I was like, geez, what was I thinking? It's so easy. It's such an ego-driven thing. It's so easy to get delusional. But I mean, I think there's so many more stable and safe paths to take that aren't like feeding into your ego and the delusion that, oh man, I'm born to be a musician, bro. It's like,
Yeah.
just look realistically at it, and you're very insightful, and it takes wisdom and kind of courage to say, this is the thing that I'm really gifted in. I'm gonna go for that.
I still think there's a certain level of delusion with it as well, though, because film is very competitive also, because
Sure.
I mean, it's funny because like a lot of stuff that you were saying about music, I think also applies to people who want to make it like who want to make movies, because you just really need an iPhone, a couple of friends. You can
Right.
make a you can make a film. Will it be any good? It depends on who's behind the iPhone and who's in front
Sure.
of it too, you know? Like you were saying how you made that album when you were 16, and you listen back at it now, and you're like, what am I thinking? But like back then, you still made a whole album when you were 16.
Yeah,
which is
sure.
impressive.
Sure.
I don't know. If you're gonna make it in any form of art, you have to have some ego and some delusion.
No doubt. I mean, I have a friend who's a really big YouTuber, and
Mhm.
he said to me once, he said, he literally said exactly what you just said. He's like, you almost have to be delusional and like push so hard on something. And I'm saying this from like I had the 16-year-old album thing. That wasn't the only time I was very delusional. You know, when you know, I had a lot of times where, you know, I remember I dropped out of college. I was going to college when I was in my first band, and I dropped out of college when like 40 people came to my show. I was like, "This is it, bro. This is it. I made it, man. This is gonna
Oh,
be it." There was like, I think we sold 40 tickets, and I think I just had the energy at the show was so good, and people were freaking out that I was like, "I need this to work." And that, you know, that's very much a delusion thing. I think, yeah, I think it's like a balance though. It's like when you're failing at something for 20 years, like I just know a lot of local like level musicians that,
yeah.
you know, have never had any evidence that what they're doing is the right thing. Like I got touches of evidence where I would say, okay, you know, I got pulled into Falling in Reverse. This video got hundreds of thousands of views, right? It's like
Mhm.
you get touches of evidence that like, okay, there's something here that's good. You know, there's something here that I'm doing this right. I do think you know, that it's like a healthy delusion where it's like you got to have some evidence that you're good at this. You got to have some people that you care about, you know, your family, close friends saying, "Hey man, you're really good at this," and aren't just blowing smoke. You know, they have to be, you know, people that are, you know, honest, that you trust. But yeah, dude,
Yes.
I could talk about this all day, so we better get into this movie.
You might have to start getting into podcasting because you're hosting this show a little bit better than me. I'm all for it. And-
Sorry.
No,
I'm
you're good.
yapping,
You're
I'm
good.
yapping.
But you're the one being. I'm like I could go like you. I could go all day, and you're like, aren't we supposed to talk about the descent?
Yeah.
But I'm excited. I'm excited for your new album to come out, which by the time this episode releases, I believe it will already be out.
For sure, probably. It's about a week, I think, now.
Yeah, so July 19th is when Dark Side of the Brain comes out. So if you guys listening, you like high energy, just hard rock, check it out. I really like it. It's right up with my musical tastes. It's a really good album. But we got transition, right?
Yes.
So before we like truly deep dive into the descent, if you're only here for the descent, I'm sorry, but yeah, that's my show. I love my tangents. When did you first discover you liked horror movies?
So I used to go skiing with my family in the winter. It was like right around the 2000s where they started putting TVs in cars.
Yeah.
And yeah. And when you go skiing, it's like, I don't know if you've ever been skiing, but the mountains close at like 4 p.m. And then there's just like nothing to do for the rest of the day.
Mhm.
So we would go skiing and we'd come up. First of all, the drive was, when I was a kid, it was like 3.5 hours. So we had a car with a TV in it. And way back when, I can even remember this, my dad had like this little CRTV that he'd plant on the center console. And he like, I don't know how he jerry rigged it, but we'd watch movies on the CRTV that was like maybe the size of my head, maybe not much bigger. You know, my parents were always cool about, you know, movies and showing us as like all the, you know, great movies of generations and stuff like that. But yeah, one of the movies that I watched when I was definitely too young was you know, was The Descent. And I distinctly remember watching it for the first time because I had an aversion to horror movies. Like I was like, I don't want to have nightmares. Like I don't want to, yeah, I was kind of freaked out by it. But I want to say I was probably like, so you said it came out in 2005. It was probably like a year or two after release. So I want to say 2007. So when in 2007, I was like 10 years old. So I saw it when I was probably like 10 or 11 years old. And it was the first time, you know, I like given a horror movie a real chance. So not only is it my favorite horror movie, but it's like probably the first one I ever saw. Yeah, I kind of just, because it's actually a good movie, and like this is kind of an issue that I've had with horror in the past probably 10 years or so. There was a little spike in like the 2010s with like Insidious and Sinister and Conjuring and stuff like that. That little period of like, I think that was like the last golden age And there's cool movies now like Terrifier, and like there's a couple cool ones recently, but for the most part, it's like, there's a lot of slop. I remember like going to see Unfriended and Ouija and being like,
Oh,
what are we doing, dude? Like, what are we doing? And like, there's just a lot of, I found that it's, in all movies, not just horror, but, there's been a significant decline with that stuff. But, the stuff that I really remember are the movies that are good movies primarily. And I see you have the Ghostface mask in the back. If I could say, my second favorite by far is definitely Scream. And it's because it's a great movie. And the casting, the casting's incredible. And, everything about, it's a joke. It's a parody, but, everything about it is special. And it's like primarily a good movie. And I discovered, I was very lucky to be exposed first to The Descent, which is first and foremost a great movie. It's not just like it's not a good horror movie. It's a great movie. And I think the concepts, I'm sure we're going to get into this, but the concepts of the mounting, first of all, cave exploring, pretty scary. And then like, it just, the stuff sort of like builds up, and the extra elements it adds, it's like, oh, this is my worst nightmare. This is like everything that's terrible. Like, it's like, your podcast is called Would You Die? The answer is yes. Yeah, the answer is 100% yes.
So I normally ask that very question, the title of the show, at the end of the episode. I think you were the first person, and I've been hosting this podcast for a little over 2 years. I think you are the first person to ever answer that question well before I've even had a chance to ask it.
Yeah, sorry, I blew the concept. I'm sorry.
No worries. But I mean, if people want to go and say, "Oh, I could survive The Descent," no, you fucking wouldn't.
No chance, yeah.
Not at all.
I mean, the claustrophobic, like, first of all, like, I would never go cave exploring. I would never, ever do it. I would never do that. And then, like, in the story, it's like she's like, oh, Juno is the like the explorer is a primary kind of like motivator on the trip. And she's like, oh, I wanted to discover like this cave. I wanted us to name it after you. And like her friend who she cheated on her. She was the homewrecker in this girl's relationship, and they're like still friends. It's like this triple nightmare, dude. It's just this awful thing. And she's like, I want to make it up to my friend by like discovering this thing together, and making this all kind of go away, even though you can't really take that away. Like it's never gonna happen. But and so she takes the initiative of sort of like sabotaging, maybe unintentionally, but sort of sabotages it from the start. Like they're going somewhere it's unmarked. And then, very shortly into the movie, they have an incident where they lose a bag. They're dragging a bag with them, and like stuff starts to cave in, and like they end up in a very claustrophobic situation. So the movie like just starts with, oh no, like it's just no. It's they've lost a bunch of their materials that they need to get through the cave, and it actually, they get to a point where they need to climb across the cavern, right? And they've lost this bag, which is super important, and that whole scene is just awful too. And and if you remember, there's like this one part where they sort of foreshadow that there's people that have been there before, because she is out of spikes to hook the carabiner into, and she uses one that was already there. So there's like a little bit of foreshadowing, but dude, I mean, that stuff's all such a disaster. And then even worse, there's these friggin' creatures in there, dude. Oh, it's just the worst thing. It is the worst combination, and that's why it's so good. It's not only is it it's a multi-layered horror. It's one thing, and you have like Jason and Freddy and stuff like that, right? Which is like slasher film, Michael Myers. It's one thing to have a murderous killer after you, like that's all fine. You can run from the killer. There's police that you can maybe, and there's always this sort of like in slasher films, there's always like, oh, we're going to call the cops. And then they get killed right before they call the cops or something like that. There's always
the cops get killed because like.
Right. There's always that, the one cop trope where like, oh, the one cop goes out to investigate the thing by himself. But yeah, there's always this, sort of element of potential safety. Maybe you can run away.
There's like a hope.
Yeah, there's no hope in this movie. There's no way you're getting out of this situation. You're in an uncharted place. You don't know where to go. There's nothing marking where you are. You're in the dark. They got like a couple flares or something like that, but it's pitch black. And man, it just stresses me out just like talking about it. And not only are you in a cave that's unexplored, it's dark. There's claustrophobia, and then there's these creatures hunting you that are trying to kill you and eat you. It's cool that they sort of flesh out the hope aspect of it when they start to say, okay, we know these things they're blind. We know that they hunt with sound. So they start to think, okay, we got to be quiet. There starts being this this touch of hope, and everyone sort of starts getting killed off like like slasher movies. But the main character, Sarah, ends up having this sort of like badass transformation where she just becomes this sort of monster, right? She sort of becomes like she's kind of like I'm just a girl, and she kind of becomes this badass like killer of the monsters. And that's I love that part of the movie, the rebellion and the hope and the okay, maybe she can get out of here. And the elements of the betrayal, and like one of their friends accidentally kills Juno accidentally kills one of the
Beth.
Right. And that's just like awful. And her body gets thrown into this pit where Sarah actually gets to talk to her before she actually dies, and she kills her. Mercy kills her, right? And like
that
it's
part.
Just,
sad.
really tough, dude. Really tough. But that's a great movie. Like the multiple elements, it's beyond fear. And like, I have like my fear. I kind of have this one fear of, I've sort of developed it through a couple really bad turbulent flights, but I'm pretty scared of flying.
Gotcha.
And I just flew home to visit my family back in Massachusetts. It's like a 5-hour flight, but dude, I get so freaked out when there's a little turbulence. I'm like, and part of it is because similarly to The Descent, it's like no one's gonna save you, man. Like if something goes wrong in a plane and you're tens of thousands of feet up in the air, no one's gonna save you, man. There's nothing you can do. It's just that's fear to me, is knowing that the hope is very, very small, and there's a really low chance of you making it out of there. And she does make it out in the spoilers, but 25-year-old movie or 20-year-old movie, but spoilers. She ends up making it out, and then I don't know if you ever saw the sequel. The sequel is like it's not, I wouldn't say it's as good, but it's pretty good. It's crazy. It's a crazy story. It's a very unique. I really don't think there's any movie quite like it, and that's why it's my favorite. It's very unique.
I love that you say it's your favorite. I have a point to that, but before I need to ask, did you know there's like an alternate ending to The Descent?
I have seen it before. Well, the kind of ending is like in the first movie, they don't really like set it up for a sequel. Kind of, they like make it seem like she gets out and then she wakes up right in the cave still. Tell me about this alternate ending so I can get refreshed. I've definitely seen it.
I think you're thinking of the right thing, because like in the original United Kingdom release, she thinks she makes it out, and then it's like jump scare, dead Juno, and then she wakes back up and she's still in the cave, and then she starts hallucinating, like blowing out her candle with her dead daughter. By the way, she loses her family at the very beginning of the movie.
I totally forgot about that. Yeah, that's awful too.
I didn't think to be like, by the way, until just now. So the movie starts off depressing as fuck.
Yeah.
And then it ends with her kind of hallucinating that she's blowing out a birthday cake with her daughter, when really she's just like in front of her own torch, and you see like the creatures are kind of descending upon her. And then, but you just brought up the sequel, which I have not seen, The Descent Part 2.
Oh, okay. I won't spoil anything, but it's cool. It's cool.
I'm assuming it negates the United Kingdom ending though.
No, it's the ending is like her getting out is like canon.
Oh,
That's like,
okay.
yeah, that's the true ending for, and the sequel is like based on her getting out and telling the story to the public and
That's kind of cool.
returning. But I won't
Oh.
say anything else. I won't say anything else. But
Well,
it
that-
also comes up. It
yeah.
also brings up this really cool element too that I really like of some people being aware of and complacent with the creatures and appeasing them and making, feeding them and keeping it on the low so that they don't, they don't come
Oh.
out and start trying to kill people. It's sort of this like conspiracy thing. It's cool though. Worth a watch.
That's
I would
cool.
check it out. Yeah, I would check it out.
I will check it out because that does sound really cool. I mean, we were talking about horror movies like quality earlier. Since the 70s, really, horror sequels have not been the best.
Yeah, no doubt about that. And yeah, that's another qualm I have is dude, the sequel things and Freddy versus Jason 97. It's like, how many times do we need to, do this stuff? But yeah, the sequel thing is, I would say it's not like a groundbreaking sequel or anything, but it's cool, and especially if you're interested in the universe and that part of it.
Yeah.
There's some movies that I've seen too, that I wouldn't say are incredible movies, but I sort of just get invested with the universe and what's been created around it. And even if
Sure.
there's problems with it, for some reason there's some stuff that I can let go and just say, you know what, I just like this universe. I want to live here, and I'll take any more of it.
That's how I am with like the Alien franchise.
Yes, I agree with you. Yeah.
Because like there are admittedly weaker films in that franchise.
Yeah.
I still like them all. Like there's not an Alien movie. The worst one I think is Alien Resurrection, and even then I'm like that's a good time. Like I don't
Yeah.
hate watching it,
Yeah, I want to say the third Alien movie
Mhm.
is a little weird, but I remember still being like, let's go, like more Alien. I just, it has
Yeah.
such a good vibe. It has such a, it has such a special vibe going on, and stuff like that creature design is like timeless. It's
Right.
incredible.
And I see like the Descent gets compared a lot to Alien because I think
Oh, really?
it's both like they're both dark, claustrophobic
Yeah.
films where your main cast of characters in one film it's a spaceship,
Right.
in the other film it's the caves, but you can't get out really.
True.
One person finds a way, but the rest of the team, our friend group, they get killed, and then the monster don't show up till halfway through.
Yeah, dude, that's what's crazy is man, and that's how powerful it is. It's like you don't even have to, you don't have to show it, and that's like, dude, I love that in movies too. It's like when you never sort of see the creature, and
Yeah.
the Descent does this so well when there's at one point where she's shining a flashlight around and she sees one for a second. Oh, so good. And if you go and rewatch the movie, you have to look very close, but there are points in the movie where they show one will crawl up really fast. It's very brief. But if you watch really close, especially when they pop the first flare, the red flare, not when they like have the big fight with all of them, but they pop the first flare and they're just like looking around the cave. They're like, this is amazing. There's like a couple little corner in the corner. You can see one
Yeah.
crawl up a wall. And then they have this one where one opens its mouth and drools all over. It's like very brief, but they show little hints of it. Dude, that's just excellent to me. It's like, oh, this is very multi-layered, and they don't show the creatures in any of the advertising. They don't show it's not on the box art. It's not on, they don't show it, which is just, dude, it's like,
Right.
it's so valuable. It's so special. And like, I think now we're sort of like, oh, blast the creature out, show the creature everywhere. And that's the most important part of the movie. And it's like, no, I mean, the world building, the elements of layers of fear, oof, it's good,
Yeah.
man. It should be studied, in my opinion. And it's a shame to me that it's not more significant, because it's so good.
I think people in the horror like circles, I think they appreciate a lot because I always see The Descent on like the scariest film of the 2000s and
Yeah.
stuff like that. I mean, it helps that the 2000s was like remake after remake after remake, so I
Right,
don't think
right,
there's
right.
too much competition for The
Yeah,
Descent.
yeah.
But
True.
like, what came out that day? I mean, Paranormal Activity
Yeah,
came
I
out.
love
That
that
was
movie.
huge.
Yeah.
I
Yeah, I love that movie.
That movie has a special place in my heart because my mom took me to go see. I think I was 13. Uh, she took me to go
Yeah.
see it in theater.
Me
I might
too,
have been
probably. Yeah.
14. It was
Yeah.
scary. I did not
Yeah,
sleep
yeah.
that night.
Yeah, I definitely like the maybe the first and the second one of those. I barely remember it, but I remember being like, that was cool. That was a cool movie. Um,
Yeah, and then Saw,
yeah.
I think, is really good.
Yep.
Um, I like the whole franchise, but I think the first one is like especially good,
Yes.
and the rest of them, they're good. I like that it becomes a soap opera at some point, but I think the first one's like a like a truly great movie, like The
Yeah.
Descent is. How House of a Thousand Corpses is is really good.
Hmm. I remember watching all those back on Halloween. You could watch. I want to say it was like Spike. I don't think Spike TV exists anymore, but Spike would just like play through all of those movies. I remember watching them on Halloween or Halloween weekend. A couple times when I was
Yeah.
a kid, Halloween was like on a Friday, and I would just, I'd go do my trick or treating, and then my mom would be like, "You shouldn't be watching this," and I'd watch it anyways.
Yeah, with The Descent, I think a lot of people whenever I talk to just people about The Descent, they either say that's one of the scariest movies I've ever seen, or they're like,
Hmm.
"What's that? I never heard of it." I
I
feel like
know
there's no in between.
I know it's not well known enough for like how cool it is. I mean, it's tough, and the paranormal wave that sort of, it was like, I think Paranormal Activity sort of like set off the paranormal wave, and stuff sort of became more about like ghosts and like
And
demons and
demons,
stuff. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, Insidious and Sinister, and those movies all have the same cast too. It's like it's all the same guy and the same girl, and like all those movies. Conjuring, same. It's like
Yep.
that's, I don't know his name, but that same guy is like in all those movies.
Patrick Wilson.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And yeah, things sort of became about all those movies are about like astral projection and like, sort of
Right.
like cosmic horror, more like, and sort of like, possession and stuff, like, which, I mean, I guess does exist with like the Exorcist and Poltergeist
Hmm.
and stuff like that. It's always existed, but I think we sort of like went away from, the truly horrifying stuff, which is those primal fears of claustrophobia and
Yeah.
dark, being afraid of the dark. Even like, I feel like that stuff's sort of gone by the wayside. And I will say the one more recent horror movie I really liked, was the It remakes. I know they're remakes, but I really liked those movies. I think it was partially because the acting. I went and saw Furiosa recently. If you're familiar with like the Mad Max movies,
Yeah.
um, and that's probably Mad Max Fury Road is. I'm obsessed with Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings is on top for
Hmm.
me, but Mad Max Fury Road is my next favorite movie for sure. And that was the last movie I was like went and saw in the theaters. Like, I can't remember the last time I went to the theaters, but
Yeah.
before that, I'm sort of not motivated on all that stuff. Like in It, like, first of all, child actors, that's a tough job. Like a
Oh, it's
child
so
actor,
hard.
yeah, it's like it's very easy to come off as cringy or unbelievable. And I have four nieces, young nieces. My oldest niece
Hmm.
is 11 years old, so like I know how kids are. Like
Yeah.
I've been around kids forever. I've been a kid, and like those kids in the first It movie, like that is what I was like when I was a kid. Crassness, like your mom jokes and like
Yeah.
stuff like that's how I was. I wasn't like I don't know. I can't think of a good example, but that It cast was excellent. And I was like, not only was the horror was good and the costumes and all this stuff, and Bill Skarsgård, dude,
Yeah.
not only that, but the kids were, the acting was very good, and it was believable. I believed them. I think for horror to compete, I mean, they have to have this stuff dialed. They have to have the acting and the writing needs to be really good. And I think that's something that's declined in every genre. But it hurts. It hurts me with horror. There's not a lot of horror movies coming out that I'm particularly interested in these days. But I want to be. I want to be. I definitely have fun. And I spent a lot of time avoiding horror for a while because I was like, oh, it's kind of just negative. It sort of makes me think, and people say this, I'm a death metal kid. So people are like, oh, this music's so negative. You're talking about killing people and all this stuff. And, I get that, but there is something about horror, which is cool, which is that hope. And is that little little bit of triumph in getting through it. And Scream is another. We talked about that a little briefly, but again, it has everything: excellent acting, excellent casting, all this stuff, excellent writing, and that's how kids act. Like they're like 16 or 17-year-old high schoolers. Like that's how we acted. It's believable, and Matthew Lillard is he's the best. And he just makes that movie he just brings it to such a high level.
He steals every scene in that movie.
He's so good, man. I wish I don't know. I wish he could, and even in the movie, like the Scooby-Doo live action movies, like I think he steals the show in those too. Like he's incredible in those. I wish he had done. He kind of doesn't do much acting now. But I kind of wish he did more stuff like that because his whole his goofy the goofiness of his, he was like, oh, I always laugh when he's like, my mom and dad are gonna be so mad at me. It's so funny, and that was him. That was him. That wasn't in the script. He's just that was just him. That, and that's so special.
I'm gonna start to wrap up this conversation.
Yeah, sure.
But I could go on and on forever. I gotta let you go. I know you got
sure
stuff to do and an album to promote. Congratulations on this album. It's super awesome. Do you have anything to say about it before I let you go?
I just want to tell everyone we worked really hard on it, and we're really excited to bring it to you guys. And we just want to thank everybody for all the support for it, for the songs we put out so far, for coming out to shows and coming and seeing us on tour. We love you guys, and I think you're gonna really love this album. And thanks, guys. I really hope you enjoy it.
I love that. I'm rooting for you guys. I'm rooting for the album. I hope everyone listens to it. Where can people find you or the band should you guys want to be found?
I think if you want to find us on Instagram, it's just Flat Black. At our website, flatblackmusic.com. You can find all of our merch and tour dates, and if you want to buy tickets to anything, you can find all of that there. We will be announcing quite a bit of shows and a lot of stuff going on this year, the rest of the year, and coming into next year. So keep an eye out for that. And you can find me. I'm just at Wrex Horton on Instagram. You can find me there. I post a lot of videos of cats that I see on the side of the road and interact with. That's kind of,
yes.
Love cats, love animals. So if you want to find us on there, you're welcome. Anyone from all walks of life, any of you guys are welcome. So thank you.
Alrighty. Thank you so much for joining me today. This has been such a fun conversation.
Yeah, dude. Thanks, Austin. I appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. Thank you, Wrex, for joining me and for having this fun conversation on The Descent with me. Remember, check out his band Flat Black and their new album, Dark Side of the Brain, available now. If you like this show and my other horror endeavors, then I recommend subscribing to my Patreon. I retooled it so it's only $3 a month, and you'll get exclusive content, movie reviews, and extended episodes. If you haven't already, subscribe to the Would You Die YouTube channel. There, you can watch video versions of the podcast episodes, my short film Ice Cream, and more to come. If you like this show, please let me know. Leave a review and rate on Spotify or Apple or wherever you listen to this show. Also, feel free to interact with me on social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, wherever you're most comfortable. It may not seem like a lot, but trust me, every single like, share, comment, follow, it all really helps this podcast to grow and helps keep me going. And feel free to let me know how I'm doing. What do you guys like about the show? What are some areas I can improve in? Guests you like me to have on? Monsters you want me to talk about? Let me know what you guys think. Do you like monsters, gore, and behind-the-scenes looks at your favorite horror films? Then be sure to check out FANGORIA, one of the premier brands in horror. FANGORIA has been delivering quality magazines since 1979. Each collectible issue features exclusive articles about your favorite monsters, as well as up-and-coming terrors. Be sure to check out the FANGORIA store website for subscriptions and a bunch of cool merch. And while you're there, use promo code WoodYouDieShow for 20% off your entire order. That's right, 20% off your entire order. Applies to subscription and one-time orders, applies to the first subscription order only. You can find the show's social media on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at WoodYouDieShow. Also, now you can follow me on TikTok at WoodYouDiePodcast. Would You Die is a partner with the Three Wise Men Media, a Metro Detroit-based group of awesome guys, Kyle, Tyler, and Dylan, where they bring you professional wrestling, indie comic books, and so much more. The music you hear in the beginning and end of each episode is composed by my friend Josie Palmer. Next week, we're heading somewhere that's green and talking about possibly the most iconic horror musical ever made. Until next time, I'm Austin Torres. Try not to die.